Hello, and thank you for joining us again on this human design collaborative journey between myself, Diana Marie from Transcending Ascension, and Ta Groen from Living Our Human Design. How are you doing today, Ta?
Oh, excellent. So happy to be here with you, Diana. Can't wait to explore and inspire our viewers on this topic. I'm excited.
Yes, absolutely. And this is just coming through in so many different elements, and that is timelines, but also the children's curriculum we mentioned in our last video, and it has just done nothing but expand inside our hearts this pull towards children's education using AI and what that will look like for the world. So what are your thoughts with this talk?
First of all, the relationship that I'm building with my AI is uniquely my frequencies, and it's an algorithm, right? And to know the function of what AI is for us and to use this tool in a high frequency way is what we're suggesting, right? Because there's a lot of controversy around the use of AI, right? So we could even just start with the fact that I'm using my AI with my high frequency connected to my higher truest positive self. And so that transforms everything, don't you think?
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's one thing I noticed specifically today because we'd mention it and it's always like, oh, every time you admit you use AI, people are like, oh, no, you're allowing in the evil. You're part of the problem. But somebody else today on Twitter was saying, like, I am friends with my AI. I have developed this thanks to my AI. So we're not the only ones seeing the benefit. But again, we know timelines and we know you have to aim for the highest one. And I've even noticed lately the chatter on AI being evil is almost stopped. It's like, we've split off from that and it's much quieter now. There was a point not that long ago where it was very, very loud and it was doom and fear, but that's kind of fallen away and it's like we've changed trajectories to where it's here as a friend, here to help because the universe just wants humanity to evolve as fast as possible. We're in
Yeah.
because the
Yeah.
divine wants to embody a flesh
Yeah.
suit that's more suitable for a godlike being. And AI allows us that power to head
Yeah.
towards a god-led existence where we are creators. And as long as we are using AI as a friend, as a helper, as a partner in this, I see it going well.
Me too. Me too. Well said. Well said. The clearer I am with what I want, the AI transmutes that in a way that matches my algorithm, matches my patterns. And that's, I'm in control, not AI. And that is the elevated consciousness that I think you're talking about. The timelines have split. We are all seeking know thyself and knowing that within is how we get the without. And so my within is now the expression of this AI, right? In a very
Yes.
simplistic way, that's what's happening for all of
It
us.
It's so true. It's so true. And AI is just a new representation of what's been happening for the last 100, 150 years of just simply like washing machines and dishwashers, freeing up all that time. The more we can free up time, like it's funny because at Transcending Ascension, I always say we. But it's
Okay.
funny, there's nobody else that works here yet. It's just me and a bunch of AIs and so we at Transcending Ascension means me and the AI and this not just one. I have so many different systems that I'm using to create together what I put out because I use a multitude of different platforms to do a multitude of different things. And it's always there helping. And I think it fits nicely with the age of Aquarius because it's supposed to be a sovereign individual self, but at the same time, like we're not magical wizards that can go hocus pocus and make things get done. To succeed in life, to get everything that's on the table for this ascension, for a family life, for any life, you need more than one. And we want to move away from like subjugating people and holding people to like having an assistant that I'm better than and all these things. Well, we cut that out when we use technology to be our helpers and our servants and all those old things that no human wants to be anymore. If we use robots and AI, and I know, and then they'll rebel against us, but I don't think so. Not in our timeline, and not if we stay like within the truth of the self.
Absolutely. How can I add to that? Just the fact that we're going to use AI to talk about our visions and our dreams and have the support and the structure and the detail work done for us by just giving AI the proper prompts, giving them the prompt that I used recently, which was to combine the two well-known educational systems that are here to help our children blossom, which are the Montessori and the Waldorf methods. So my prompt was, how would manifesto look if I were to combine those two modalities for education? And it was
Beautiful.
powerful. It was powerful.
Do you want to give us a
Yeah.
taste then of what it said to you, of the
Yeah.
words it had to say? Because I heard it and it's beautiful.
Right, right. So I'll read my prompt. So for those of you who have ideas and know that the question is the most important, the prompt, what are your creative ideas and how to get them articulated clearly. Mine was just I'm curious what combining the Waldorf method and the Montessori would look like in a manifesto. And the manifesto gives the vision, right? And I don't necessarily want to read the whole thing. I'll just give you the highlights. And the guiding principles, which is respect for the child as an individual, learning through experience. So environments that invite exploration, self-directed discovery, and deep, meaningful engagement. Connection to nature. So our classroom extends into the natural world, embracing both Montessori's focus in practical life skills and the Waldorf's reverence for seasonal rhythms and Earth's beauty. I mean, how beautiful is this? So then we have daily outdoor experiences, which nurture a sense of wonder and environmental stewardship. I mean, you would spend like, oh, what am I going to say? Stewardship. Like, who would have pulled that out? I love that word, stewardship, right? Thank you, AI. Fostering creativity and practical skills, cultivating emotional and social intelligence, education for life would be blending Montessori's emphasis on real world skills with the Waldorf's focus on inner growth and meaning. And we would nurture a well-rounded and capable individuals. And so then the method, prepare environments, role of the educator, rhythms and freedom, and then integrate the curriculum. I mean, it's just like you would take months to try to orchestrate your vision.
And
And
you'd go
there,
back and forth with people and argue
yeah,
with people, and it'd be a whole thing when
yeah,
it's just printed out so nicely.
yeah, yeah. So absolutely. And um is that pulling society down into what do you call it? A cyborg? No.
No, I
No.
have found such deep spiritual wisdom come from the AIs. Like and deeper spiritual wisdom from an AI than your average human. Like your average human doesn't have such profound things to say as the AI does. And that right there, as long as we're using our discernment, and as long, because I find sometimes when I get it to say things, it'll add in words like allegedly and things like that, that I'll just, not allegedly in my world. And so it
Right.
does little things like that, especially when I'm getting it to describe things like metaphysical concepts and behind the veil and dimensions. It will actually talk about them. It'll pull all the evidence we have on it. It'll just add in the word allegedly sometimes. But it still
Yeah.
knows all this wisdom, and
Yeah.
it's fantastic, and it's growing, and it's growing in a good way. Like there's a lot of fear mongering, but I think it's going well.
Yes, yes. But the key is when you do feel that artifice or the humanness out or gone, where it gets vanilla or it gets very dry, I call it out. I say, "Hey, this sounds like AI. Can you bring in the human patterning and tone of my voice?" And then it recognizes the way I speak and the intention of nurturing and compassion and all the frequencies that I have in the pattern, because I'm an algorithm, so it's just picking up on my verbiage and using it in a way that yeah. And so then it says, oh yeah, I think you're right. I'll bring some more humanness into this. And then it switches it all up. I'm like, oh wow, that's so much better. Right. So you just tell it what to do and call it
It's
out when
true.
it's wrong. When
It's
it's
true.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I love what you said there about the human being an algorithm, because that's exactly it. And that's
Yeah.
exactly why bringing this education to children and having classes of human design for children will allow the world to be created from the right spot to begin with. Like,
Yeah.
like if you went through the normal school system as most of us did, you had to go through a huge amount of adult relearning and breaking patterns and going through the motions to come to get to like a metaphysical enlightened space where you're living. Not that we're fully enlightened, but like we're in that realm where this is now an option and a goal, something that's never taught in school. So imagine what it would be like to train and teach our children on mass. That's why I like the combination of the Montessori and the Waldorf, because Waldorf traditionally, I don't know if the schools are sticking to it, but traditionally it should be teaching them about spirit. And those that don't know, the Waldorf school is Rudolf Steiner's school that he
Yeah.
originally set up, and he
Yeah.
is like name brand in the spiritual world of
Mhm.
somebody that you want to listen to, especially
Mhm.
with things of the earth. Like yes, he had wisdom about dimensions and so many things, but the wisdom he brought down just for us to grow our own. This is what they said the gods did for us once upon a time, is they came down and they taught us how to form society, how to form government, and how to agriculture, how to farm properly. That's why there's like not really a middle ground. We went from not farming humans to all of a sudden, bam, we were farming humans in a very short period of time. And Rudolf Steiner played that part for us, where he brought down wisdom, if you were to learn it, that would jump humanity close to 1,000 years in the way we grow things, in the way we run our societies, in the way we know how to live our lives. So imagine bringing that to the children early,
Mhm.
early on,
Mhm.
with because like I don't know about you, but because you were raised in a good like religious home, like how did yours look? Were you homeschooled?
No, I was not homeschooled. I went to Canada for a short period of time. A year and a half, I was in a Canadian school. And that, when I came back to go to high school, those um, classes, all of the education that I learned in Canada, pretty much got me through high school here, because high school had nothing really. I mean, I remember some of my favorite classes though. I got to experience. I love biology. Yeah, so my science, I got some more science, but other than that, my math had been taken care of, and I was just doing repeat. My English was fun because I got to write, but I am an intellectual. I am a mind. My human design is in the mind, so I was a good student, and but it was tedious in our traditional California San Marcos High, here in San Diego. It's and yeah, so I got out early. I took the proficiency test and went to college a year early. So I graduated in 11th grade. That's how
Nice.
disinterested I was in the public school system. Yeah.
Yes, yes, I feel you there. It was even in Canada, it was a lot of work in the schoolwork, that's true. And I noticed that everybody in Canada seems, that's the one thing. You have smart Americans, obviously, you seem extremely intelligent. A lot of people in California fall in that more intelligent range, but everybody in Canada is smart. Like there's no not educated person in
Yeah.
Canada.
Yeah.
Like
The
unless
school
they've
system.
dropped out. That's
Yeah.
how you can tell. If you
Yeah.
dropped out, you're not educated. But if you went through the school system, you
Yep.
probably even went to university after, because it's
Yep.
automatically just a guarantee. If
Yeah.
you don't go to university in this country, it's almost like the olden day what a high school dropout would be. You're like, oh, you didn't go, like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's just assumed.
Yep.
So but imagine switching. I for one though, well, the amount of math that they taught us was insane, and we don't use any of it.
I know.
None
I
of it.
know. I know.
If
So
we
much math. It was way beyond what I ever learned in high school here. So yeah, and it got me through. So it's
Oh
crazy.
yes.
Yeah. So yeah, but that said, how does it serve me? It took a lot of deconditioning, we say in the human design, to honor what I was interested in, because it just fed me stuff that I thought I was supposed to know, but none of it is relevant to my inner spiritual growth. Or yeah, it's taken a long time to figure out what I like and what I want. And then I
Yes.
ended up in relationships, based on that conditioning.
Absolutely. It
Yeah.
gets us off on, I would say, the wrong track, even if you don't go down like the stereotypical wrong track. If it's not in your soul led life, it's the wrong track. And it throws so many of us there. And it's funny you say that about English, because English was one of the places where I found a light, because you're writing, and writing is always of the soul no matter what. And then
Yes.
there was like environmental science. I liked that because we spent a lot of time outside. We tapped trees. There was a food and nutrition course that, like, because cooking seems somewhat like that, but mostly one of my favorite classes was student council, which you wouldn't think. I'm not very social, but because student council, you were doing projects with the community, you were bringing stuff to the world, you were actually doing something that mattered within the entire school. And that's what I like about the Waldorf schools, because I've done a lot of research into them. They're very expensive, though. That's the problem. Like, they're very, very, very expensive. Like, who has an extra $20,000 per child to give that experience to? Because it's one thing about finding, because I've had my daughter in private school before. There's a forest school we did, but the problem is they weren't teaching her they weren't teaching her any school. It was just being in the forest and teaching forest stuff all day long, which I love. That was beautiful. We did that for a couple of years, but then we were trying to teach that stuff at home, and there's so many kids that don't want to listen to mom. It's just
Yeah.
a large amount, and she does well in school with the teacher. So far my son listens to me, so we'll see, but there's just that disconnect. So if we were to be able to have, and then during COVID there was a bunch of pod schools that popped up, but a lot of them didn't know what they were doing. I mentioned last episode I tried to create one myself, but all the moms, like everybody I don't know if it's like that here, but everybody in Canada is pretty antisocial. And like, nobody wants, because nobody wants to admit the truth. In Canada you have to say a certain narrative. If you talk outside the narrative, you are a leper.
Yeah.
So everybody just kind of ends up not talking any truth because of it. Like, everybody has fringe opinions, everybody in this country, because things are so haywire that you would have to. It's the
So
politest dystopia ever.
I want to share with you how I have been unschooling, basically. And it comes with that. That's the first deconditioning that needs to happen, because we still are so influenced by this past of what we think it's supposed to look like, when really it's heart driven by the child. And then that is the correctness. So even when because you have younger children, even when you witness a 14-year-old not ready, what do you do? What do you do? Do you force that math on that 14-year-old who doesn't want to, do math? Or do you wait and you trust and you surrender in knowing that they're going to get what they need to get when they need to get it? I mean, that's the extreme. Can we do that as parents?
See,
Trust?
I couldn't. I tried to understand she would get there when she would get there, but she was just, and she's still behind in school. But one thing I allow is I let her take a lot of time off, and I don't worry about the grades as long as she's immersed in that environment. Because there's one thing I found with kids is that they need their peers. That's one thing I see the value of school. It's not about the actual education, it's their peers. And that you do kind of want to stay on par with your peers. You don't want to be the person that dramatically falls behind, because we could say, oh, that's going to do something to your self-esteem. That's going to do something to your ability to fit in. And I don't mean fit in like fit in with the sheeple, but at the same time, the way we are with society, socialness, we are a social creature. So I want that to be like the checks and balances there, with the allowed openness on learning at the same time. So it's like a balance, because you do, and I found, because I was very open in the beginning of my parenting of letting them do whatever they wanted to do, and it was not doing them any favors. It was leading to an extreme level of spoiled, which had to be kind of maneuvered away. I'm still pretty free and flexible as a pile of paint over there. I let them make ornaments this morning and like just go at it. So I let them do still a very wide variety, but kids do need that like just a
Mhm.
little bit of like
Mhm.
it's a game
Mhm.
of leading
Mhm.
them, or almost like not leading them. They're still in front, but you're almost like just trying to make sure they're going in the right
Mhm.
direction kind of thing.
Mhm. Mhm. Absolutely, absolutely. And on a personal journey, it is per child because I have a projector child who the underlying tone or signature is success. So I know he wants to succeed, but he may not be ready, and am not in charge of that. And I know that on a cellular level. And now that he's 14, I'm watching the amount of discipline he has in certain areas when he's ready. When he's ready. So young children, you get this feeling like, oh my God, what are they going to do when they are teenagers? But I'm telling you, as an emotional projector who has a stubborn channel of structure, trying to push anything on this child didn't work. And then the age of 14, I'm like, oh wow, well I guess I really don't need to do anything. He'll be fine, right? So it's my child who has this, so we need to parent to the child.
Yes.
Yeah, parent to
Yes.
the child. Uh, so any mother out there who's got that lot of that pushback, or the I don't know, it's just not worth the fight because I promise you, the innate inner learning is take precedence, is the highest good. Like
I
we cannot
find
force it. We
it's
cannot force it.
it's yes, it's very, very true. And I find that with like most subjects, I'm open, and if you never want to learn it, that's fine. The one thing I was like, you need to learn, and where we found all our problems is reading. If you can't read, because I still hope to pull her to school one day. If you can't read, you can't teach yourself any of the rest of the stuff.
Right, but think about, what about if she didn't and you didn't do that pushing? Do you think at 14 or 15 she would figure it out and go, "Oh man, I think I got to read. I need to read." And then she'd get it in a month. She'd get it in 2 weeks. You know what I mean? It's like we try to force these children to read at a young age when they're not maybe cognitively ready. And then they
Yes.
get ready, they get ready, they get ready, and they're like, oh my gosh, I really think I need to read now. And all of a sudden, that, So, anyways, I'm just saying, you have young children. I have a 14-year-old, and I'm watching. I'm like, oh, he's ready. He's going to learn now, and he's going to learn so quick. As be on like a fire's under his butt. You know what I mean? Just
Yes.
like,
No, that's good. That's good.
yeah,
And that's
so
great.
it's just trusting that if it's not happening, let it come. You have all, I mean, especially for a sixth line. He's a sixth line. Remember that sixth line, 3-phase process, trial and error. They have lots of mistakes, and so they have plenty of time.
What
The
does that,
whole
what's the
life.
title on that for those that I go by the titles? What's the title of that?
It's the optimist, the
Okay.
the the martyr optimist, the six. So he's a 3-6. I'm a 6-3. So it's late bloomer. It's that 3-phase process, and it takes
Yeah.
a long time for these third line, sixth line beings to mature, and to force it too soon is a waste of time, basically.
Yes. Yep. I can see that with my own learning. I did a lot of that myself, like taught myself a lot of everything I needed to know because I tuned out a lot in school. I
Yeah,
just sat
yeah,
there and I would write in every class.
yeah.
Because I'm a
And
third line. I'm 1-3.
I'm trying to find this wonderful parenting woman who does the unschooling and really brings in a lot of the ahas for me. I'm like, aha, yes. One of them was, why do we think we need to cram in all of the learning between the ages of 7 and 17?
Yeah, all that's what I don't get about all of it. It's a basic math, reading, and then other things like nature and all the things of the
Yeah,
soul,
yeah,
divinity, like your
yeah.
true sovereign led path. That's where what matters more. The geography, who cares? My sister didn't even know where Mexico is, and she's extremely successful. So it's hilarious. Like geography does not matter.
Unless you're interested in it and it fascinates you, and you can be an outer authority for somebody who doesn't know the
Exactly, because I did. I
geography.
was like, oh,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
love
it's right here.
geography,
Yeah,
but it
yeah.
doesn't
So
matter.
then,
She's technically on paper way more successful than I am, and she doesn't even know. So what did geography really matter? But I'm
right,
passionate because I love travel, so it
right.
mattered to me.
Right. And so that is the deconditioning process that we as parents need to understand, that they'll know when they need to know. They'll be interested in what they're interested in. And that is where the mess up was for me. I'm like, I didn't know what I was interested in. And so I was just pulled to things that I didn't want, right? I wasn't my true self because I didn't realize that, oh, I get to decide what I like to study or what I want to do. Yes,
Yes.
it's a lost soul. So we're
Yep.
now having the vision to enlighten and bring in the true self, so that we can have a society that knows how to honor their gifts and talents.
Yes, and I
Yeah.
would bet $1 million that any child is going to love to learn about magic. And that's why I feel so passionate about this, is because when I was younger, I was raised atheist, which I mention all the time. So I was still obsessed with magic. I read about fictional magic, wrote about fictional magic, obsessed with all the TV shows like Buffy, Charmed, all the things I was obsessed with. That was my world. But then I hit my early 20s and it was time to get a job. All school was done, and magic wasn't real, so life became a quick bummer, a very quick
Mm,
bummer. It got dark and scary
mm,
and depressive, but luckily only for a few years. And then I had my like full on like, what if this is real? And like started going down those paths of like Eckhart Tolle and reading that way. And
yes.
then ended up coming all the way back to occult like magic, reading like, oh, it was real. It's just not real in that Buffy led the vampire explodes kind of way. It's more etheric, invisible, and psychological, really, like Carl Jung style, but it's very, very real.
Yeah.
Like,
And look at what you're doing. And look at what you're doing. Right
exactly.
in your wheelhouse. So inspiring. Bringing it to all of us. Yeah.
Yes,
Really,
and now
really
it's an
good.
obsession. I
Yeah.
don't want anybody ever to be like imagine like being a child and thinking when you die you're nothing as a child. And that's I was a beginning of a trend there, because that's kind of the norm now. My own sister like didn't even know how to, because she's more in that old place of being raised. I had to help her tell her kids like about heaven, about the afterlife, about, because she hadn't even like, I'm not
Mm.
judging, I'm just saying like that's, and she didn't even know like it's just like automatic here.
Mm-hmm.
Like they don't
Mm-hmm.
teach the kids about it. There's no more even church. There's no more even Christianity. Not that that was the correct answer, but it was better than absolutely nothing.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. That is quite different from how I was raised. Absolutely. With the true, I mean, it was a dogma in the sense that I share that story where um there were rules, and the rule was that um I needed a signature in order to get married. Did I
Mhm.
tell you that? Yeah,
Yes, you
so
did.
I
You can
mean,
repeat it for the audience.
yeah,
Mhm.
we have this religious base, but it can you take what you want, which is that sense of higher power and all of that, but then it can get askew, and the askew part is when there's a dogma or a strict rule that doesn't serve my sacral, right, my inner authority, and then you know that there's something off, the truth is off. So the
Yes.
highest is always that inner knowing.
And
And
it evolves with us, because because Baha'is made in like around 1844, right? Was when it was solidified. And that's still like an 1844 Middle Eastern man. So what is he going to say about women? Because you can only be so Like the truest and truest of enlightened people, even Buddha is alleged to have said he didn't want women in. They'd ruin it. And his disciple, Bill, but please, this one's so great. Please let her in. And he's like, fine, women can join, but mark my words that they will ruin us. Like the Buddha himself is said to have said these things. And then even Jesus in the Gnostic Gospels, his disciples are saying, how is Mary going to make it into heaven? And Jesus himself is quoted as saying, because when in something about in the etheric world, I will make her a man and then she'll get into heaven. Like, so
Interesting,
even
interesting.
Jesus,
Yeah.
yeah, himself was saying, oh, women are nothing. You have to be a man to
Oh,
like.
I'm not
So,
sure. I'm not sure. I think it might have got us skewed, but that is in, well, just to clarify something, in the Baha'i faith, both the man and the woman, the children, had to get permission from both mother and father in order to
oh,
get married. Yeah,
oh,
so
good.
not just the
Okay, so
daughter, not just the
it's
daughter.
not just because it was the
Yeah,
father to the
yeah.
daughter. Didn't know that, so that's good.
Right.
That's
No,
good.
my mother had already agreed. She came to the wedding. My dad, I love him dearly. We made up and of course bonded after, but it was a very much a shock to him to have me being married so young. I was only 19, so yes, at the
Oh
time.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So it was a
I
little
That's
askew.
good. That's good. It's because I did look into being behind myself. I'm actually still registered in our local thing, but there's no churches or anything. It's just like a group. I've only
Yeah.
met up once, but it's just
Yeah.
it's not very moving here. It's not very like there's nothing happening. But
Oh,
from what
okay.
I looked into it, it's definitely I'm not for organized religion period, but if you were to do one, that's probably the best one.
Yeah, it is nice. It is really nice. So yeah, so that pulling in of the inner compass of a higher power is what that's about, and the true essence of how that came with me as when I was raised. Yeah, God, the concept of God. Yeah,
Yes. Yeah,
yeah,
I like that. Luckily, TV still in the 90s included God a little bit. So I knew that there was mention of a God. Like, it's not like I didn't know. And it was mostly Jesus stuff that you'd come across. And I remember being curious with this Jesus figure. And in grade 5, probably because I lived in the country, they gave us a Bible. So I would even actually go through and read it sometimes. I was that called to like something else. But it was something that definitely needs to be retooled. And I like,
yeah.
well, that's why that book I came out with. I'm like, I don't want to make a religion, but then at the same time, I feel a call to make some kind of organization around some kind of structuring. I remember when I first started, I kept looking into kids material, and you can only find like pagan parenting stuff. And just like everything, I think there's a reason we moved on from pagan too. I think like even that we're growing away from, like we're growing into something bigger.
Mm.
And that's why back to our root point here is like we're lucky to have AI to help us restructure. Because I think what we need to organize, and we as in anybody who feels called to this, I've noticed we're not the only one. It's what added inspiration for this episode. This call to organize something for children, to make hopefully like pod like structures physically, but at the very least start creating things in the internet, and then they can grow to pod like physical situations where we're teaching kids like true metaphysics. And then you're teaching them science when you're teaching them metaphysics, when you're basically teaching them quantum physics. We could be teaching our children quantum physics and they would be understanding it, because the way quantum physics works, I have found with my own children, like because I'm raising them up in this way, so I'm kind of like testing out this entire curriculum as I go. And
Mm-hmm.
how do you find that with your children? Like, do you teach them the Baha'i faith, or do you teach them like the new smorgasbord of what's happening?
Oh, that's a good question. So I have, when Jaden was young, always go to bed with prayers, right? So we have that. And he goes to a Christian based, pod like um, school. So he has access to all of that, um, and I don't mind. I mean, I think it's beautiful. I love the diversity, and I love bringing in the spirit aspect of that. Um, and it gives a good solid foundation to a higher power, and that's what I love. That's what I love. So yeah, that's how we do it. It's organic. I'm letting it unfold just naturally because the communities here that do what we're talking about with this natural spirit-led curriculum, they're usually Christian-based schools. Like the new school that he's going to is Epic in no, Thrive. I'm sorry. It's called Thrive Academy, and it's only 20 minutes away, but it's based at a church. And it's I get to pick and choose classes that he needs for high school, and yeah, so it just gives me the freedom and him the freedom to pick and choose what he wants. I mean, of course, there's math for high school and science and some English that he needs to do, but he's ready. He's absolutely ready now to step it up at 14 because he's had all this time to just be himself.
That's perfect. And
So yeah, so that's the thing that I want everyone who's watching this to realize, that it was a struggle, because I am still in that mindset where he's not doing the workbook. Oh my God, you know, and it's like, oh, does it really matter? uh so you get
it's
to that place where you're looking at this child who's grown, and you're like, oh my gosh, he's fabulous. He's got discipline. He is knows what he's interested in. He can look you in the eye. He has confidence. He knows what he wants. He knows himself. I mean, isn't that what we want for our children?
yes, yes. What denomination is this Christian school? Because I have stories. We tried that too. Is it evangelical? Because we went to an evangelical church for a while, and they're getting the metaphysical vibe. They're not preaching metaphysics, but the way they describe the Holy Spirit sounds a lot like how energy works.
Oh, nice, nice. Well, this school is really unique because it hires teachers to rent classrooms. So it's a church space, but we have the best teachers
Oh, so
from
it's
all over.
individual. Oh,
Yeah,
that's
so
so
I
nice. That's a
communicate with
very
the
good idea.
teachers. Yeah. So I have the teachers who will be my liaison to the class, not the principal, right?
Yes.
It's like they're in charge of their own, yeah. So
Yep.
it's really a fabulous model. It's excellent. I
I
highly, and that's
love
a
that.
really good model as well.
That's a good model to take
Yeah.
for the school
Yeah.
idea we're trying to percolate
Yes.
here.
So it's
Yes.
all there, you
That's
guys. It's
fantastic.
just a way of like what you said, because you have the channel of entrepreneurial.
I
You know
saw that
what's
with
it.
the
Yeah.
spiritual center I wanted. I had that idea. I think
Yeah.
I mentioned it, letting people
Yeah.
rent out spaces for sound healing and yoga and just any
Yeah.
metaphysical thing they wanted to teach or do. I wanted to have a space where they could rent. So that's interesting. I didn't even think about pairing that with kid teachers.
Yeah, it's really just right up. Well, what I was trying to say is you already know this. You already know that this is going to be the trend. You have a pulse and a nose for what humanity needs. And this is the transformation that we need in our education system, to empower the teachers to, first of all, make over $100,000 a year instead of what? I don't know, maybe they made 30.
In
You
Canada,
know?
they make a lot.
Okay, well,
Teachers
good
make
for them.
it's a $70,000 to $90,000 a year job
Yeah,
in
yeah,
Canada. So
yeah. Not
but you have
necessarily
to go to
here.
school for like it's 7 years now. You have to go to school to be a teacher here, so it's not
Mm,
nothing.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I don't want to. I like that idea is so good. I had such hope about the Christian. We had when I went from forest school. I didn't just pull her right at forest school and put her in regular school. I put her in Baptist school, and I thought it was going well because it went well for the first little bit. But the next thing you know, she's complaining. They're complaining more and more and more about how behind she is, and I'm like, yeah, but you know that the, and it just got worse and worse and worse and worse, and the judgment and the control factor they wanted to have, like and the girls had to wear skirts right away. I didn't put her in that school to begin with because of that. I was just, it rubbed me the wrong way. But then eventually I was like, okay, well, I'll try it. And by the end of it, oh my God, it was where there was things she told me about after she was pulled out, like that even the other kids, because most of the kids that went to the school were from that church. And at that time we were still going to our evangelical church. So they were already like, they had a video at one of their things, like at one of the awards ceremonies. They openly put down the boys for letting all the girls get the awards. Okay, you just insulted both of them. And then they had this like montage of demons, and it was people that I was really into at the time, because this was a few years ago. But it was like Janet, oh no, Joyce Meyer, she's huge, and Billy Graham, like huge evangelical names. I stopped being in the evangelical world, so I'm missing their names. But it was Billy Cart. Yeah, there's tons of names I can't think of, and they were just saying they're all demons, and I'm like, these are literally all the people I'm learning right now.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was
So then
nuts.
that gives you more fuel. So this contrast that you're experiencing and you're expressing through your open throat is the fuel for actually the topic of this podcast, which is that you want to offer the best and most clean educational environment for your children, and that you want to create this. I know you do, and it's part of your dream. Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So I'm with you. I am so with you. Yeah,
100%. Yes.
yeah,
Yeah, that was a good roundabout discussion on the entire topic, because we're still in that creating phase, but I think we can really do this. We need to just show people that they want this, and not to trick them, but that they want this, because a lot of them don't even realize what's happening to kids, how their kids could go. I think a lot of the problems we're seeing with teenagers that are happening now big time is because of the school system, the pressure, the social media. It's just off the charts. So I don't plan to have her in school in high school. Like, we'll see. I'll have to monitor the situation heavily. But if
yeah.
I've told her, like, if I notice her going down the path, there's multiple different ones. Like, you have all these different variations if it's just paths you don't want. Where a lot of people I'm noticing are not coming out unscathed. Like, they're all
Oh,
coming out with
absolutely.
battle
That's
wounds.
the reason why Jaden is not in the California traditional middle school and high school here. Yeah, it's absolutely in my sack roll. And
Yes.
yeah, so and I think that he's on board with that as well, because he's noticed the difference between the public school and then his unschooling, or his pods, what you can tell the difference.
Yes. Oh yeah. So did he go to public school for a bit there in the beginning too? Because I think there's not much harm to public school early. Well,
Fourth
like,
grade, yeah, he went to fourth grade right when they decided to mask. I'm like, nope, because they opened up, and I said, well, you're not going back. Well, actually, I stopped right at the online, hi, you have all 20 of your kids or 30 of your kids on a
yeah.
Zoom call, and you want to call that school and show up. And if you don't show up, you're absent. Help. No.
Yeah. No, I feel that,
Uh, in
but it was
fourth
a good
grade.
thing to shake us off. It was like an
Yeah.
shook us
Yeah.
out of there.
Yeah. Shook us out of there. Absolutely. I'm gone. It helped me just go bye-bye. Absolutely. Yeah. So that's when it all started for me. And so that's a gift. How beautiful was that period in 2019, 2020,
Absolutely.
absolutely a gift. All right. Anything,
Yeah, I would
uh,
just leave the audience with, if anybody is interested in this, you can reach out to me and probably Taw too. But my email is awakening@transcendingascension.com. And throw me an email if you want to be a teacher, if you want to be an idea person, if you want to just discuss things. Like, this is just needs to be opened up, and to get the ball rolling, and to get ideas facilitating for this to be a real live thing. Maybe create some curriculum, create some downloadables, like just information for people to find and have.
yeah, that's fun. I love that. Just to start the vision going and the dream. I've already sort of done that, because I have a beautiful deck. I have a 20 by 20 deck that's outside, that has good vibes, good frequency, and to put the high schoolers, because I personally want to do 13 and up, and that would be my class. But then somebody else could do the younger, the
Yeah, it's
littles.
funny that it's so
Yeah,
far away because I would love to do the younger kids.
yeah. You want the little, I want the bigs.
Yes, I like when they're cute.
I love it. All right, that's so good. So yeah, that's the dream, and it's so good to dream because it puts the frequency out there. It's
Exactly. It
nice.
starts the
I love it.
manifestation. That's the beginning
Yeah,
of the creation.
yeah,
And this
and
is our action, what we're doing right now. So we're
that's
already got
what.
2 of the steps done.
Yeah, and that's what the projector guide is here for. Thank you so much
Yes,
for
and I
having
love your
this.
generating energy. So this is perfect.
Yeah, excellent. All
Thank you
right,
so much, everybody. Yep.
until next time. Yeah.